I look over the empire I once loved, in despair. Not through my eyes, they are long gone. What is left is a husk of who I was, while I am locked within, alongside the sanity I once had. I watch as I destroy everything I was once proud of, ripped away from me because of my curiosity. I wanted to know what drove me insane, the secrets of my birth, and my connection to the Doctor. In doing so, I am now trapped against my will, for now I am merely a puppet of one who calls himself the Emperor.
This is a recorded message from the TARDIS computer banks.
You've entered the room of memories. I am the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
The Doctor.
I'm the Doctor. I'm the Doctor. I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I have lived thousands and thousands of years and faced deadly adversaries. I've had 14 faces, past, present and future.
But 14 is not all.
There are more than I know. More Doctors. More than I will ever be able to count. But the real question still stands.
Doctor Who.
I look at my kingdom with hope and optimism as I see my people prosper, ancestors of the people I once terrorized. If it wasn't for the Doctor, then perhaps I would still be the evil one I once was. The evil one I dread will one day return. I often think on why I went insane, but perhaps today is the day I look back on it. Today is the day I have decided to move on, to let my people prosper on their own. But in this time of ending, I grow ever so curious of my past. I know it's dangerous, but the flashbacks to what truly made me insane are tempting me. Days go by in which I have nightmares of ancient houses and a child locked in a room being tested on.
It all started with a Maudie expedition of humans arriving on a planet much like their own. In that expedition was an advanced supercomputer named Xoanon. After landing on the mysterious jungle planet, the computer broke. Naturally, repairs were made to the computer to try and get it up and running again. The computer had the power to last generations. During their work on Xoanon, it somewhat evolved and grew a consciousness, with it then becoming a sentient creature. Failing to recognise birth trauma led to the Time Lord known as the Doctor, who at the time was trying to help repair Xoanon, unintentionally driving it insane by even working on the computer. But it was too late. In an attempt to fix the device, the Doctor created a link between him and Xoanon. A link this in time did much more than fix him, but allowed Xoanon to copy the Doctor's personality and adapt to it, which in turn caused more mental strain for Xoanon when its own personality began interfering, creating an insanity within him. An insanity that would go on to define generations, haunted by Xoanon's phantoms and very presence. But something that even the Doctor couldn't predict, apart from the insanity in the birth shock, is just how complex the link between Xoanon and him was. Just why Xoanon grew more insane, and what it had to do with the Doctor's secret history.
It is a nice day today. The world I created was once a very different world. One I created out of terror and fear, a game I now regret. One you would expect from an Isolus, pitting a savage tribe, named the Seventeen, and a far more advanced but selfish group, named the Tesh, against each other. There was no goal other than what my own voices told me to do. Now I look at the city Neva and rejoice.
This unnamed forest planet was now a prospering empire with little to no poverty. The skies were a clean blue rather than what was a bleaker, polluted black sky. There were skyscrapers and advanced technology that could rival the fourth great and bountiful human empire. This empire was led by Xoanon, who, after being healed by the Fourth Doctor on his return to the planet, felt bad for his treatment of the ancestors of the humans from the Mordi experiment. Ever since, he rarely looks back on his reign of terror, and has earned the forgiveness of his people, who are long since gone. But Xoanon guards and guides their ancestors as their protector, leader, and scientific advisor. He often overlooks the planet from a clock tower, which is among one of the many rural areas within the forest. It is there he is rumoured to reflect on his past and process what developments could benefit the Empire. He often got visits from his old personality, the Doctor, who often came to the planet wearing a different face. Most recently, she was blonde and wore a grey overcoat with yellow braces. Xoanon has guided his people to surviving many wars within the galaxy, and now after so long feels as if it is time to deactivate himself. He has done all he can for his people, and now feels as if they must go forward on their own and not become dependent on him and his wisdom. The announcement at first was met with outrage, but then the people of the planet came to respect his final wishes. It was at this time that he reflected on his insanity and his regrets.
The nightmares have been getting stronger recently, and no anti-malware can stop them. And no therapy has been able to target them. Most of them begin with a man who claims to be the lord of all dreams, sending me into a dream state with an emerald bird whispering into my ear. I fear I will find out the answers to my nightmares, and it will bring the evil one back.
Soon after the Doctor had made his fixes to Xoanon's programming, it led to Xoanon growing more ill in time, with him gradually becoming more schizophrenic, and began to become all-knowing and all-seeing leader to the misinterpretation of him being a god amongst the savages, and more advanced people he himself had divided. Generations to come would split him into two entities, with each legend much like his personalities, with the savages of the planet known as the Tribe of the 17, calling him the Evil One and being terrified of his very image while worshipping Xoanon, who, according to human legend, was imprisoned by the Evil One. The Doctor eventually expelled his personality from the software, and Xoanon returned to normal, leaving him to create the empire he has now. At first it was difficult to persuade the savages and Tesh that there was no Evil One, that they should disband their groups and work together, but in time he accomplished his goal of breaking the barrier between the two, which in turn eventually led to the Tesh teaching the 17 of their wisdom, and the 17 teaching the Tesh of their strength and their unity as a tribe. It was at this point in his reflection that Xoanon began to wonder what truly drove him insane. Where did all of his personalities come from? Because a lot of them weren't the scientists that worked on him, only the Doctor was prominent enough within the link. He tried to ignore the thoughts, but one of the traits the Doctor left within Xoanon was his curiosity. He then tried once again to ignore these thoughts, and went back to reflecting on his empire, as the sun set on the planet. He opened his eyes to see the people heading into curfew being guided by his phantoms, which were known as holographic helpers. The people of the planet accepted the curfew as a way of keeping peace at night. Xoanon then remembered the times he spent in therapy as he tried to control the flashbacks. It wasn't ordinary therapy, naturally, as he was a computer. As time went on, Xoanon evolved with his people. As he stands looking above the city now, he has no need for screen or physical source of transmission. He is seen as a ball of light to the people of his planet, but within the ball is code and complex mechanisms, alongside somewhat human attributes. He could choose any physical entity to mimic without fear of insanity, but still had his limits. In terms of mimicking, he wasn't as advanced as, say, Chameleon, but could copy the shape of a person and basic physical traits like a face. The thought has occurred to him that if he keeps doing it, there is a possibility he could copy too much, therefore going insane once again. So it tries to limit himself to a ball as much as possible. It wasn't long before the distractions weren't working anymore, and the temptations began to antagonise Xoanon as vicious bacteria, which to him was malware, to avoid his phantoms going haywire because of the sudden mental strain. He swiftly decides to give in to his curiosity and think about why he went insane in the first place. Although not visible to a normal person, Xoanon shuts his eyes, almost meditating. He concentrates his brain on a specific moment in his life, his birth. His phantoms begin to disappear and the malware begins to disperse. But Xoanon is still curious and decides to look further. He focuses on his memory banks and accesses memories that are hidden to him. He activates his deactivation protocol to terminate him in 10 minutes, giving him enough time to reveal the truth about himself before accepting peace. Within his memory banks is an empty void, surrounded by code and gateways to hidden memories. One of the gateways is locked, and Xoanon uses the malware from earlier to gain access to the gateway, which swiftly opens. Xoanon guides himself through it.
I have decided to shut down. The world around me is at risk. If I continue, I am tired and have done the job designated to me. I just hope I truly helped the people I vowed to protect and serve prosper, and I believe they can live without me.
Xoanon looks at the room locked within his mind. A child is sitting on a chair, alone. That is, of course, until the doors open and a woman in ragged clothes comes in with an injection. Files and facts around the event appear as it continues in front of Xoanon's very eyes. Information that once drove him insane, but after evolving so many times, he has become stronger. The woman, named Tectean, walks into the room, frail and weak, holding an injection. She goes up to the child and runs some tests. According to Xoanon's data, the child is known as the Timeless Child and would later go on to become the Doctor. He is shocked by this revelation as everything becomes clearer to him. He watches as he fast forwards throughout the years in which Tectean tested the foundling, only to find out that all these personalities were once his. Xoanon began to deduce, but before he could finish, the room around him began to reshape. Now he finds himself in an ancient house on Gallifrey, long since forgotten, with only one thing in common with the last event he witnessed. This was also linked to the Doctor, according to Xoanon's databanks. Xoanon looks around at this mysterious room, and one of the Time Lords he witnesses is known as the Other, according to the information that was once hidden to Xoanon. Xoanon wondered why he was strong enough to witness these events without going insane, and began to contemplate that there is a bigger force at work. He was thankful that he didn't have to find out what. He looks at the Other with a glare. His face also looks familiar to Xoanon. He then figures out that he was also one of his many personalities. Both the Other and the Timeless Child were a part of Xoanon. All their lives and personalities were what corrupted his mind. The link between the Doctor and Xoanon was far stronger than either of them could have predicted, Xoanon thought to himself as he watches the other grow up. He watches as the other guides Rassilon by handing him an onion, the birth and tragic loss of his son, his family. But once again, the timeline is in flux and Xoanon reawakens in the room the child was in. He notices that instead of the child on the bed, it was now the mysterious woman named Tecteun. She injects herself with some sort of compound and then begins to regenerate. But before Xoanon could witness it, he is thrown back to ancient Gallifrey. The other is looking over at Omega's memorial. He is saddened and angry at what Gallifrey has now become. It's now just another one of Rassilon's games, he thought to himself. Xoanon was confused at why the timelines were in flux. After all, they are the same timeline, he thought to himself. He looks as the other throws himself into a loom. The explosion then blinds Xoanon, who finds himself back in the empty white void he was once in. 1 minute till termination. He was wondering whether he should tell the Doctor the revelation he has discovered, the secret histories he had witnessed. Then he took one final look at his city from within his mind, and then shut his eyes as he could finally rest easy, knowing that the Doctor can handle her own problems and that his people will prosper. He has had enough adventures for one lifetime. He was still bewildered by the events he had become a witness of, and was still slightly curious, but had all the answers he needed. He then looks up as the code that once brought him to life slowly vanished. His deactivation was almost complete, and Xoanon begins to fade away. He looks up to see that the deactivation is being blocked by a file placed in his databanks by his creator. He wonders if it is a letter congratulating him, like the Doctor's, or it could be anything. It was simply named Emperor.exe. He opens it, and his deactivation is put on hold with 10 seconds remaining. He begins to see images of unimaginable mass destruction, with the gateways between worlds being destroyed and unfathomable wars from the future come to torment him. Among this are images from other worlds with different Doctors in each. Above them is a puppet master, covered in shadows, sitting on his throne. Xoanon sees images of this mysterious figure cradling his daughter and the destruction of Gallifrey. The figure seemed ever so familiar to Xoanon as the images began getting more and more violent. All of these images were events taking place in the Doctor's timeline, both the future and the past. Something is wrong, Xoanon thought with the power he had left as he tried to fight off the insanity. All of these timelines were one singular timeline, just like the earlier events he had witnessed. All of this was in flux, bouncing off each other and coexisting, revolving around Gallifrey while intertwining with the Doctor's timeline, making them a complex space-time event. Every story ever told has happened, Xoanon thought to himself as he scumbled to his insanity, which began to take him over as he witnessed more horrific images. He can't help but open more files of time-locked futures and even dead timelines.
Error. Virus located. Unable to direct anti-malware. Anti-malware terminated.
Opening files.
Time war. War in heaven. The other. The timeless children. Faction paradox. The axis. The Emp. I am the Emperor. Loading. Error. Termination deactivated. The Emperor awaits. I am the Emperor. Are you the Emperor? Who am I?
Who am I?
A mysterious being uploads Xoanon to a disk and hands it to the Emperor ready to deploy. The Emperor gives the mysterious man a task to send a warning to the Doctor in his third incarnation and pickpocketed a specific man on his way to his next adventure.
Disruption is necessary to the plan.
The Master happily agreed to do so, and later pickpocketed an identity card from one of the Doctor's many hidden incarnations on Xerius, who was trying to warn him of what was to come. he was sent back to his own time, and the Master gave the warning.
The fake warning from the Master should draw them to this point.
Daleks conquer and destroy!